Once, in a small village nestled at the foot of majestic mountains, lived a young man named Wei. He was just 26, but his life felt like a relentless, never-ending marathon. Wei was incredibly restless. Imagine his mind literally being torn apart by thousands, tens of thousands of thoughts simultaneously about chores, past mistakes, and the scary, unknown future. From early morning until late at night, his mind incessantly circled with ideas, memories, fears, and doubts. These obsessive thoughts gave him no rest, day or night. They turned his life into a true nightmare, leaving him deeply unhappy, utterly exhausted, and weary of his own mind. His inner self was a constant battleground. Day after day, Wei constantly regretted the past. He agonizingly recalled words said in anger, opportunities foolishly missed, and people he had hurt. These memories burned his soul like hot embers. Yet, simultaneously, he felt incredible anxiety about the future. Questions constantly spun in his head. What if I never achieve my goals? What if I remain nobody, just another face in the crowd? What if only troubles and pain await me? Because of this endless, unstoppable torrent of thoughts, his mind resembled a chaotic, destructive, and merciless storm in the ocean. Wei physically couldn't find peace, even for a brief minute. At night, he lay sleepless, staring into the darkness, listening to the endless monologue of his own doubts and fears. His face had long lost its smile. He couldn't remember the last time he felt genuine, true joy. Life seemed like a meaningless struggle, one he was already doomed to lose. Then one day, aimlessly wandering through his village in another day filled with sorrow, Wei happened to overhear an interesting legend. People spoke of a wise hermit who supposedly lived in a neighboring village, hidden deep within the mountain range, rarely visited by anyone. They said this elderly man had been a famous philosopher and respected teacher in his youth. Over his long life, he had helped hundreds, perhaps thousands, of people find inner peace and relief from worry. When the sage grew old and his strength waned, he deliberately left the bustling city with its crowds, noise, and endless, meaningless race. He chose a quiet village nestled closer to nature, the mighty mountains, and the rustling forests. In that secluded place, he rarely received visitors, preferring silence and reflection. Yet for the few people who genuinely sought true answers, who were ready to truly change and work on themselves, he always found time and strength. When Wei heard this story, he felt a faint but welcome ray of hope pierce through the darkness of his despair for the first time in a long while. Maybe, he thought with a racing heart, this is my chance? Maybe this legendary sage can help me find that lost inner peace and get rid of this all-consuming anxiety. Wei made a firm decision. He had to meet this teacher, regardless of the distance or the difficulties he might face on the way. He quickly packed simple food, put on his most comfortable clothes, and, without delay, began his long, arduous journey into the mountains. Many days passed. They were tough days. The roads were steep and rocky, the weather changing from scorching sun to cold wind. His feet were blistered and ached with every step. His body was exhausted from fatigue. But Wei stubbornly pressed on, never giving up. Finally, after all these trials, he reached the very mountain village he had heard so much about. He found a small, modest house, entirely covered in green ivy whose leaves rustled in the wind. The house was surrounded by old, mighty trees that seemed to have stood there for hundreds of years, witnessing much. Their branches quietly murmured a soothing melody of nature. On the wooden porch of this simple but cozy house sat an old man. His face was deeply etched with wrinkles, telling tales of years lived and experience gained. Yet, in his eyes shone incredible wisdom and a deep, almost palpable calmness. The old man was completely immersed in meditation. His eyelids were gently closed. His breathing was wonderfully even and deep. Each inhale and exhale seemed part of some ancient rhythm of the universe. Wei slowly, almost reverently, approached and spoke, his voice filled with sincere plea. "Teacher, please listen to me. My heart is broken into 1,000 pieces. My mind never, for a second, falls silent. It attacks me from all sides, deep at night, in the clear day, while working, while resting. I am deadly tired of fighting myself. I no longer know how to live, how to exist in this world. Tell me, can you help me find the peace that I once lost, or perhaps never had?" The old man very slowly, without haste, opened his eyes and looked at Wei with genuine concern and compassion. His gaze was incredibly kind, warm, yet serious and penetrating, as if he saw straight into the young man's soul. He smiled softly and said in a calm voice, "Follow me, my son. Let's go." They went into the small house together. Inside, everything was utterly simple and minimalist. A few soft sitting cushions, a single wooden shelf with well-worn books. The entire space was permeated with a spirit of solitude, deep reflection, and silence. The teacher slowly approached an old wooden table, and very carefully, almost ceremonially, he filled a transparent glass vessel with pure, crystal clear water. He filled it slowly, right up to the brim, and the water was so close to the edge that even the slightest careless movement or a too sharp breath threatened to spill it. "Take this vessel," the teacher said in a very serious tone, looking straight into Wei's eyes, "and walk with it from my house to the farthest edge of the village, and then return here. The path will be long and challenging, with many people, much outside noise and haste. But remember the main, most important rule. You must not, under any circumstances, spill a single drop of this water. Not one little droplet." Wei looked at the teacher with clear bewilderment and slight confusion, not fully understanding the purpose of all this. "And one more important thing," the sage continued, raising a finger to emphasize his words, "listen very carefully and remember. You must see everything happening around you on this path, feel life in all its manifestations, and observe the people. But at the same time, your mind must remain absolutely calm, collected, and completely focused on the task. Try to maintain this balance. Remember this every second." Wei took the vessel into his hands with enormous, utmost caution, as if it were the most precious relic in the world. The water inside slightly trembled with his every careful movement. He took a deep breath and began his unusual journey. The road through the village turned out to be narrow, winding, and incredibly noisy. There were people everywhere. They were rushing, pushing each other in eternal haste. Small children were screaming loudly and running carelessly back and forth, playing their games. Cheerful music played from the open doors of nearby shops and stalls. Dogs barked fiercely at passers-by, and merchants' wooden carts loudly creaked on the uneven road. Complete chaos and hustle of ordinary village life reigned around. But Wei was completely undistracted by all of this. Every step he took was deliberately slow, measured, and absolutely conscious. All his attention, all his concentration was completely 100% focused only on the water in the vessel he held. He walked so carefully and gently, as if carrying the most precious treasure in the world, something priceless and fragile. His breathing remained wonderfully even and calm. His mind was clear and bright, like a mountain lake without a single ripple. People around looked at him with unconcealed curiosity and clear surprise. Many stopped and asked him, "Hey, young man, what are you doing? What's the point of this strange task?" But Wei answered no one. He didn't even turn his head their way. He simply continued his methodical walk, not losing focus on the water for a single moment. He saw out of his peripheral vision how children happily played and laughed in the central square, but he consciously did not let himself be distracted by the sight. He heard the birds singing beautifully in the trees, saw the beautiful houses with bright flowers, but his mind remained firmly calm, collected, and fully focused on the single task. When Wei finally returned to the teacher's house after the long journey, his face was literally glowing with inner peace and evident self-pride. "Teacher, I did it. I succeeded. I walked the entire long road there and back. Look, not a single drop was spilled," he exclaimed joyfully, setting the vessel very carefully on the wooden table. The old man smiled kindly at his enthusiasm and nodded slowly in approval. But then, after a brief pause, he asked a completely unexpected question. "Tell me honestly, Wei, did you see with your own eyes how those children were playing in the square? How joyfully they laughed and enjoyed life?" Wei paused for a moment, recalling his walk. "No, teacher. To be honest, no. I was absolutely and completely focused only on the vessel of water." "And did you hear how beautifully those birds sang in the trees? Did you see the magnificent sunset over the mountain peaks, which was especially beautiful today?" The sage continued gently but persistently. "No, respected teacher," Wei answered quite honestly, feeling slightly embarrassed. "I was truly focused exclusively on the water in the vessel, and only on that. I noticed nothing else." The sage nodded understandingly and began to speak very slowly, solemnly, and meaningfully, giving weight to every word. "This, my dear boy, is the main secret. You have just, without fully realizing it, discovered the greatest secret of human existence. When your restless mind is fully, entirely, and completely focused on the present moment, on what is happening right here and now, when it firmly holds all its attention on one specific thing, there is simply no physical room left for worry and anxiety. There is absolutely no space for endless regret about the past, which is gone and which you cannot change. There is no room for agonizing fear of the future, which has not yet arrived and may be entirely different. Why does this happen? Because in those moments, your mind lives entirely with its whole being, right here in this very moment of time and nowhere else. You didn't think about your numerous problems that usually torment you because literally all your mind, all your energy, all your consciousness was right here in the present moment. You didn't worry about what happened before in your life, and you absolutely weren't afraid of what might happen later. You simply lived in that specific moment completely, entirely, and with your whole being. And precisely in that precious moment, you were truly, deeply calm. This is the true, genuine peace that you have sought for so long. Wei suddenly felt something important click like a switch deep inside him at the very core of his being. Now he truly understood this simple yet profound truth with his whole soul. Calmness was not the complete absence of any problems in life. It wasn't an ideal, cloudless existence. Calmness was not an escape from reality into some distant mountain monastery. True peace is a special state where your mind consciously lives only in the present moment, right here and now, not wandering into the past or the future. "Teacher," Wei said with completely new, clear understanding and a spark of insight in his eyes, "now I finally see and understand. If I truly want to calm my perpetually restless mind, I don't need to run away from real life, to hide from it. On the contrary, I must learn to fully, wholeheartedly live every single moment of my life, whatever it may be, joyful or difficult. It is precisely then, in this state of complete presence, that true inner peace and the genuine calm I desperately sought will appear." The old teacher smiled softly and warmly, his smile filled with sincere love, kindness, and deep approval. Outside the window, the sun slowly, majestically hid behind the mountain peaks, coloring the entire sky in incredible golden, orange, and crimson hues of sunset. Wei thanked the teacher wholeheartedly and slowly began to descend the mountain path, returning home. But he was clearly no longer the same restless, anxiety-ridden young man who had ascended a few days ago. He had changed fundamentally. He was internally transformed, reborn. Now, true peace and calm reigned in his heart, in his very depth. And it wasn't because all his life problems had suddenly vanished. No, they were still there. But now he firmly knew something else. He knew how to properly face them, how to relate to them. He had discovered the secret of how to find true peace. Not somewhere in the foggy future, not in some special circumstances, but right here, in this very moment, in the living present. When Wei descended back into his native village, people immediately noticed the striking change in him. There was a bright, sincere smile on his face, which had been absent for so long. He walked the village streets with confidence, dignity, and deep inner peace. He understood the fundamental truth: life is not a destination. Life is the path itself.